We are live.
Hello, everybody. This is the 14th episode of our Surpass webinars. Today, we have a very special, very popular. You know it from Facebook, from Twitter, but most of all, you know it with the international SEO focus. And her name is Aleida Solis, a very, very special guest. Hello, Aleida. We're very happy to be here with us.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to share with you today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. So, let us introduce Aleida just a little bit. She's a well-known and highly experienced international SEO consultant, but you know about that, providing personalized and strategical SEO advice, training, and ongoing support through her SEO consultancy, Aura Inti, from where she helps from multinational startups across the world in competitive industries and complex environments requiring a highly personalized, in-depth, and scalable approach towards organic search growth. So today, we are going to talk about the SEO success and the SEO success of projects. We will go through the main causes of SEO processes failure and provide actionable tips to overcome the most common challenges to achieve SEO success. We will also discuss the current trends and just a little bit in the international SEO and the best practices for this year. So before that, let me introduce myself to you. I'm Dido Grigorov with almost 16 years in SEO. I'm head of SEO at Serpact, and my main focus are the content strategies, semantic optimization, and technical SEO. Here with me is Nicola. Nikki.
Hello, my name is Nikola Minkov. I am CEO at Serpact. I have more than 7 years experience in SEO, most focus in technical SEO, content marketing strategies, and SEO strategies.
So, Aleida, let us know a little bit about you. Tell us about your background. How did you start with SEO? What do you love most about SEO?
Yeah, I started doing SEO in 2007. I started working at an online marketing agency that provided services to a lot of international companies, especially in the travel and education sector. And this is how I started doing SEO. And also I did it in a very international type of environment. And the reason why I started focusing on international SEO at the beginning, right? And after that, I have worked on a variety of companies in-house from the agency side. Since 2014, I became independent. I started my own consultancy service. And yes, I have been working like this also remotely since 2014, right? Like working with companies all over the world, having the chance at the same time also to speak at conferences. I blog a bit and I am very active in Twitter too. So yeah, very looking forward to share today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what do you love most about SEO? What is your, we know about international SEO for sure. What are your favorite topics or issues or stuff you like most besides the international SEO in SEO?
Yeah, I think that right now I have been doing a lot of work lately in the last couple of years with marketplaces, right? But marketplaces are also very common internationally distributed. But besides, that is one of their characteristics, right? However, there's much more about it because they have a transactional nature that is like the e-commerce, any other type of e-commerce. Most of them are e-commerce oriented, but they have also all of this additional layer of complexity because of the marketplace nature, right? They are the middlemen. They don't control the stock. They don't control the content in a lot of times. So they have all this additional layer of complexity that is a little bit more challenging, but it's also very fun to handle and requires also more alignment or bigger alignment with SEO from a product side in order to control and avoid a lot of issues that have to do with crawlability, indexability, how to manage the internal indexing of so many facets, of so many internal pages that at some point need to be very well indexable, because in some cases they are very meaningful from a business side perspective, but in other cases it's completely different. And there's not a consistency among them, because again, the products can be of whatever in some scenarios. So yes, it's quite fun. It's challenging. It's fun. I really like it, and it's a topic that I'm very close to it right now, and I'm actually going to speak about it also next year at a couple of conferences already. And then another very fun topic that I'm testing, or I have been testing this year, is with YouTube optimization with my own channel, Crawling Mondays. That was a fun project that I had this year, and I started testing a little bit about it. And I have stopped doing the videos after 21 videos, but I am going to start like the second video season soon. So very looking forward to that. Stay tuned for more videos and more testing too. And then what else? Besides this, well, I'm always very passionate about SEO for web migrations, redesigns. Somehow I find myself always into this type of scenarios with clients, right? Like doing web consolidation, rebrandings, acquisitions, etc. And yes, I tend to help also a lot of clients going through structural changes within the websites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we continue with your great presentation, because Orleda has prepared a really great presentation for us today, let's start with the term SEO success. How would you define, in your opinion and your background experience, of course, SEO success?
SEO success is achieving the business goals that are meant to be achieved with SEO, right? SEO is just the channel towards a bigger, meaningful, business related type of outcome, right? Usually these are purchases, or these are conversions, whatever it is, a conversion for your business, right? These can be registrations, clicks on ads, requests for registrations, sales, whatever. So usually what you are looking to achieve with SEO is a goal that is business related. So it's critical for us to keep that in mind all the time, that rankings are just a way to achieve something bigger. Organic traffic is only meaningful if it is really relevant traffic that will end up converting, right? So all of that, there are so many ways to achieve the final outcome and goal. That is crazy to think about, that there's only a way to do successful SEO or achieve those goals. But and my purpose today with my presentation, right, is to share some common agreement among many of us in the community when I asked about what were the challenges, why SEO processes were not successful, right? It was identified that there were a few common challenges usually across SEO processes. So my goal today in my presentation is to share how these common challenges can be avoided or can be solved in a way that is meaningful also to work with, or to do it so with clients.
Okay, so let's go to your presentation, because
Perfect.
It sounds really interesting, and I know it's great. So let's show it to our audience.
Amazing. So I am going to share my screen now, and please do let me know if you see,
yes, we see
my screen well. Perfect. And my presentation. And actually, the first time, this is the second time that I present about this topic. The first time was at Brighton SEO in September this year. So I have updated a little bit that presentation, but the main areas, of course, are the same. And yes, it's about what makes your SEO fail and how to fix it, right? And thinking about it, when I started to put in this together, I remember when I started working as an SEO, right? And there was always this feeling of, oh my God, what I am doing wrong. Because at the beginning, I was on an agency side. I felt I was handling too many clients to go as in depth as I really wanted, or I felt I needed to make things happen. Then I worked in-house. We got minimum development support to execute due to resources and timing constraints, which are quite usual. And all the eggs, I felt that they were in a single bag of that single company, right? Then I moved to another in-house position, and then I thought that I had learned my lesson, and the first thing that I requested when I was going into the interview was tech support resources. So I assured tech resources right from the start, but then I faced myself with other challenges regarding the business model constraints of that company that were very, very difficult to overcome, right? And then I work at another agency with far less clients, more sophisticated type of service, much more in depth, mostly big brands with high bureaucracy though, and very slow execution pace. So sometimes just to get some redirects to be implemented, I had to wait for months, right? So SEO, at the end of the day, I realized after all of these different type of experiences, right, is complex. Achieving success, achieving what we want, these final goals with SEO is complex. It's not always the same. It depends on the context and the nature of the company, and it happens because of the nature of SEO, right? It's a technical topic. It's complex to be understood by many of the company's stakeholders and team members. Then the results are long term. We need to wait for a bit to achieve results. Then the SEO is ongoing, and it needs to be flexible based on the results that we get. If we see that we are achieving results as we expected, then it's okay. But if at some point we see that the results are not the ones that we wanted, we need to change something, right? We need to tweak, we need to optimize the process or if we identify that we are achieving results with another areas or that we didn't expect it in the first place, we need to pivot and we need to focus on those maybe potentially, right? So we need to keep flexibility going. And there's a high dependability on external factors and resources at the end of the day that we don't control directly. And the need, there is a need of multidisciplinary and cross-departmental support. We depend on the development team to implement technical actions. We depend on the content team to implement content-related optimization actions too. So it doesn't depend completely on us. So I believe that SEO, is complex because of its nature. However, indeed, I asked a few months ago regarding which were the causes for SEO processes failure, right? And I asked all of these questions. I gave an option to select three alternatives, up to 3 alternatives from all the options that I gave, or even include another one if people thought that there was something missing from the options in the surveys. And I got more than 500 responses from the survey, and you can see here the answers, right? So I want to we take a look at the top 3, and these are, as you can see here, related with the top two are related completely on resources, on availability of resources, technical and content related resources. So indeed is important. And then if I went and checked which were the ones that got overall most of the answers, most of the that were selected by SEOs. And in fact, the top 3 causes are related to not only resources, but also budget issues or constraints, right? Technical content link building, 3 big areas in SEO or major areas, right? And if we take a look a little bit more closely, we can see that the top 5 failure causes have to do with SEO execution challenges, because if it is not resources, it's flexibility issues regarding the technical aspect of SEO, or lack of completion of SEO implementations too. And funnily enough, the first SEO analysis cause is already number 7, right? So a lot of people connects SEO challenges, and a lot of the tools that we have nowadays are related to the capacity or to help us or to support us to do an effective SEO analysis in order to provide good recommendations to clients. And that is, of course, the first very obvious step. But there is, as we can see, most of the challenges are not necessarily anymore on the SEO analysis part, or to identify issues that we have already managed to do, not only with tools, but also with our own experience and understanding, of course, but it's with the execution itself, right? To make things happen, right? That those things that we have identified in the analysis in the first place. And when organizing per type, the top causes again are budget, client management, and restriction issues. We can see per type of issues here. There's a lot going on with client management and communication, what we can consider project management. So avoiding these top issues at the end of the day, I realize like they will minimize a lot the failure of our SEO processes too. So what are these three main issues? The lack of budget and resources for content technical link building implementation, client and project management communication issues that we have through the process, and then implementation restrictions and lack of flexibility to execute recommendations. And a lot of people might think like these are not necessarily part of the SEO specialist or consultant job, because these are not SEO analysis problems, right? Like this of external type of aspects of the execution. But at the end of the day, we need this to make things happen and to achieve results. And a lot of our clients will consider our work successful if we achieve results, which is reasonable. So even if we don't consider this purely SEO connected, I think it's critical that we have certain understanding of how we can avoid these main challenges and to make things happen in our SEO process. So the first aspect that I would like that we review together is first, how to validate that there's a real fit and alignment with client decision makers for an SEO process. Because, and I understand that especially bigger agencies, they have a big team, they need to sell to get a good ROI, to get profit, to pay the team members too. When you are a solo consultant or have a smaller team, it might be a little bit easier at the end of the day. But yes, also as an in-house SEO, you of course you want to keep your employment too. That's important. But realistically, there is a lot of mismatch happening that could be avoided right at the start of the SEO process, right? And there are two critical questions that are important, fundamental to ask to potential clients or employers when we are being hired. And if they are ready for an SEO process, if there's a real fit for SEO, if the expectations are also aligned. So these issues start when the SEO process is sold, when there's disqualification, activities are the start. And these are four fundamental criteria that I think that should be critical to verify to see if there's a real fit and alignment in the expectation of the SEO process. If there are enough resources to make things happen, if there's enough flexibility also to make things happen, to implement potential recommendations, if the goals are aligned, if the goals are reasonable, if your client, for example, wants to double the traffic in 3 months, potentially it will be a little bit hard to achieve this with SEO. It's better that they start with PPC or paid search, paid social, paid whatever, but not necessarily with SEO. And that there's also an understanding on the context, that there's an acceptance that results will be tied to execution, right? If there's no execution, results cannot be achieved, right? The goals cannot be achieved. So there should be an alignment with this. And that is why it's important that we follow a solutions-oriented sales process in which an SEO specialist is also involved. I remember a long time ago when I was at this SEO agency or digital marketing agency where SEO processes were sold, and me as an specialist, I then got the project already sold, and sometimes I saw it's like, oh, we need to achieve this at this in this timeline. Like, how so? Like, it's critical that an SEO validates that what is sold is actually achievable and is reasonable. And the decision makers are also involved in the process in a way that there's a real understanding of what it takes to make these goals happen, right? So evangelization is important at the beginning. Alignment and validation is important at the beginning. Diagnosing the customer needs, crafting up the solution, and establishing value right from the start is important. And yes, I know that ideal scenarios are unlikely. Oh my God, it's super difficult to get a client that has all of the resources in the world and all the time to wait in the world and has all the flexibility. These are unicorns, they are very uncommon, right? However, if we at least follow certain criteria and we validate, will be able to end up with better clients, better cards to play, right? This is the reality. And if you are afraid that you will never close a deal, once again, realistically, well, you need to establish yourself and your unique selling proposition, your own characteristic. You need to position yourself in the SEO market to get the right clients, right? And this is the problem. Sometimes many of us like SEO for everything, right? That is why, in my case, I am an international SEO, and I focus on certain type of sizes of clients that have certain type of characteristics, not to any clients, right? So these are questions that you should be asking yourself to position yourself in the market, to be able to attract also certain type of clients that you know that they will be a better fit with your own capacities, right? What's your specialization, SEO area, sectors, platform, company size, what they should trust you versus others, establish trust based on your experience and past results, why it's easier to work with you, make it more convenient by developing your own tools, frameworks to facilitate the process. Like Els here, like she does also in the conversion world, like she doesn't work with just anybody who comes to her, right? Like there's a validation to make sure that she can actually deliver value and that the client, the other side, is actually ready. So a great fit and alignment with the decision maker is fundamental, so they can become also your champion. You want someone who's convinced inside the company that you will be able to help. You don't want everybody like, you don't want to work with a company that is suspicious with SEO, or they are not really ready, or they are concerned that they don't understand SEO right from the start, and that doesn't change at all, right? Otherwise, there will be more chances to end up with this type of SEO failures scenarios, like the one that Ilana shared when I asked about this question. Failure to understand that SEO needs to be taken into consideration when designing the website right from the start, and it's an ongoing and not a one-time process. This is something that you should raise awareness right from the start. And I would say a low number of great clients tend to be better than a high number of bad clients at the end of the day. The perception of your outcome, a positive ROI, it's needed and it's achieved not with a high number of bad clients, but with great clients, even if they are a lower number, right? And I would recommend that you take a look and you follow April Dunford, and she has written this amazing book about positioning from a marketing standpoint, how you can position yourself as an SEO agency consultant to be able to get and to obtain and attract the right clients, right? The second point, to facilitate the execution with actionable and validated incremental SEO recommendations, right? This is critical because I laughed when I saw this tweet from Brighton SEO, from the Brighton SEO account. It's like, you want money? Okay, implement the SEO recommendations then first, right? So your SEO process success relies on your capacity to get your recommendations executed, right? And yes, there might be a lot of factors that are actually out of our control, but there are also certain things that facilitate execution, right? And that we can control directly by better optimizing, by better crafting our SEO recommendations, and by doing our SEO audit in a way that better connects and resonates, and it's the recommendations are much more easier to follow and to be implemented. Like, for example, a lot of SEO audits, they don't show how the issues impact the site growth, are too long, are difficult to read, not connect with the ultimate business goals, they don't prioritize based on the impact and criticality. They focus on the issues instead of focusing on solutions. And there's a lack of continuous communication, validation during execution, and also monitoring of the progress in order to react accordingly when it is needed, right? So it is important that our SEO recommendations or SEO audits are strategical, contextual, segmented, prioritized, actionable, incremental, iterative too. So they shouldn't be just checks validating isolated optimization issues like this, but context and strategy should be taken into consideration to drive the SEO process thanks to this recommendation. So it's important that we take this into consideration when we develop the audits, defining actions with importance and difficulties and the resources, showing how to fix each meaningful issue. when we are developing the recommendation. So for each recommendation, I explain why it is important, how this affect the rankings, the different scenarios where I see the problems happening, and also a summary a little bit of what is the SEO effect, the business importance, the optimization status, what is the ideal priority for each one of them, making also the recommendations easy to follow with examples, with screenshots, with actionable wording. This canonicalization issue is happening because these pages are linking to this one instead of these ones. This is how it should be fixed. Update the links from here, from there. And the impact is this one. This is how we are losing versus our competitors because we don't have enough content, or our pages don't even exist, or our pages are not well targeted to the right terms, or etc., or the canonicalization is not the correct one. So showing how our competitors are ranking us, or getting better rankings, more rankings versus our own is critical to show us decision makers that end up caring mostly about the final results and don't understand all of the technicalities. Also, segmenting and attaching the affected pages of each scenario, including data to facilitate the implementations, right? Like, yeah, pages with canonicalization issues, yeah, from your crawl, attach all of the ones that are affected. Show from where to where they are canonicalized to see if it is reasonable or not that they are canonicalized to there. Show from where they are being linked to, so you can update the link accordingly. And if it is reasonable that they are canonicalizing right like this, okay, it's about maybe just to update the links to point to the final indexable URL. If the canonicalization is actually wrong, then you can update the canonical tag to self-refer. So point to each one of these pages is they are actually meaningful to rank for their own specific queries, or the content is not really duplicated, right? So it's important that you develop recommendation based on the specific context and situation of the client. And then also it's important and critical that you prioritize these recommendations with a priority based on their impact, right? So that those that they will be touching or covering pages that are targeting important queries for the business and that are affecting important aspects of SEO configurations, they should have a high impact. If they have a high priority, the impact is high, and there is a low difficulty to implement, right? High impact with low difficulty, high priority. They should be the ones that you start with. Then medium priority will be those recommendations that will have a high or medium impact, and the difficulty won't be so easy, but also not so difficult that to implement. So medium difficulty, low difficulty, and then those with a low priority, those that will have a medium, high impact with medium or high difficulty too. Those that you want prioritize at the beginning or all, because remember the SEO is a process. So you want to get the high priority and medium priority first, are those with medium or low impact, because you don't want to end up with a huge document that is too difficult to read and will only add noise and will stop your clients or the decision maker, all the stakeholders of the process to take actions, right? So putting them in context in a recommendation matrix, documenting their characteristics and priority, as I'm showing here, is critical. What will be the ideal priority, the one that you recommend, and then of course you need to share this with your client, and they will be able to validate if it is feasible or not based on how they implement the recommendations. You can say, okay, this should be included in the first iteration of the process. This should be ideally included in the second. And then also ideally for your client to go through your SEO recommendations much more easily. I will recommend that you organize your SEO audit, starting with those recommendations with the highest priority at the start. So they don't need to go through many different pages that don't adopt necessarily to the final outcome or with the important recommendations, just to go to the ones that are really meaty, the ones that are really meant to execute change, right? So you should start with those with the highest priority, using also the recommendation matrix that I'm sharing here as an index for your recommendations. So it is fairly easy to go through them, and you can include it at the beginning of the recommendations document. And then it's when you actually share the documents and with your client, and you verify with your client that if these recommendations are actually doable, their difficulty, the feasibility, the priority. So you will have now a validated priority. Maybe your client tells, okay, this that you specify as top ones are not really feasible to implement right now because we're going to migrate in 6 months. So we cannot touch this at this point. We need to wait for a bit, right? It's okay, but the results needs to be updated accordingly. You cannot achieve then the same type of results or goals that you wanted if everything was going to be implemented ideally. If this is not going to be able to happen, if half of these recommendations won't be doable, right? And like this also, we'll be able to verify with the clients if there are enough resources. If you see each recommendation is connected with whether content or tech related resources or really building promotional support. So you can see if there are enough resources allocated to each one of these areas. And you can make sure that these resources are allocated accordingly. And if there's anything critical that is not doable also to execute, it's important that we assess why, and we can find alternative with similar outcomes, right? That there's usually many ways to implement the same type of actions. There's very rarely the situations when there's only a single way to make something happen, right? So, for example, if you need to implement href-lang annotations and the HTML head cannot be changed, cannot be edited, maybe with an XML sitemap, maybe through the HTTP headers, maybe even not ideal, but with GTM or via Edge SEO or through the CDNs. Now with workers, this is something that is fairly new, but also not ideal also, but yeah, can make things happen, right? So you can use the matrix that I mentioned before to set a feasible execution schedule, calendar, validated with stakeholder, where you identify who's in charge, the implementation date also, when you are going to actually test and troubleshoot with your client in a test environment, and also the launching day afterwards. And agreeing that this should be an ongoing implementation and validation process that aligns with the existing workflow in the company, right? Like before anything is released, it should be validated, right? And you know that every Tuesday, for example, you should be crawling something that has been scheduled to be implemented for that week, or every Thursday after the release that was on Wednesday, you need to crawl again the production environment to make sure that the implementation have been implemented accordingly, or that you should have a continuous validation with certain tools that I'm going to show you, because you want to make sure that just in case that something has been changed, your previous recommendations have not been overwritten necessarily. So you can, for example, set recurring crawls with crawlers. For example, deep crawl, write, modify, and crawl. They offer ongoing crawls that you can already leave it set. You have tools like Content King or Little Warden that will monitor automatically any change that you do on the site, and they alert you whenever something meaningful is changed. Also, you can develop SEO trainings, webinar manuals, protocols, and wikis for better internal SEO understanding and alignment across team members too. And indeed, the chances for misunderstanding need to be minimized, right? You need to ensure that there are no accidents going on, that everything is aware of why this is important. There are proper systems in place to monitor any changes, like what I mentioned before with Little Warden on Content King. You monitor your more important pages from not only from a traffic but also business standpoint, and set real-time monitoring and alert systems for them to be warned if anything changes unexpectedly. And I asked Steven from Content King which were the most common issues that they saw, because they monitor many websites, right? So they see many things happening. And he told me, like, most of the issues is like people, they don't think that they have issues, but they do. For example, CDN caching issues, which sometimes make the raw TXT file inaccessible. People it's not even aware sometimes. Or people thinking that their websites or client websites, they don't change, but they do. A load balancer issues, which leads to website having different href-lang canonicals because of web servers that are not in sync, for example. That is why it's important that we monitor everything, that we double check anything, and that we are always like on top of this type of things. So it's about also simplifying and prioritizing to facilitate the execution by avoiding overwhelming the stakeholder. That is why I mentioned that all of this SEO recommendations are nice to have, but their outcome won't be so big. Maybe we don't want to take them at the start. We don't want to include them at the start, because otherwise our clients, as in the example of Chris Green here, show how their client, they were overwhelmed to see all of these recommendations that they wouldn't been able to implement right at the beginning, right? And of course, you should be well prepared for alternatives and cover for worst case scenarios, like thinking like, if this is not able to be executed or this goes wrong, you should have another way to track that or to achieve the same type of actions, and be thinking about that all the time, also to be prepared in case something wrong happens. And then the third is minimize restrictions with a fluid and agile communication with client stakeholders, right? Remember that as an SEO, you become all those people consultants. So we need to be good with people too, to communicate well, learn to communicate SEO value, and you will also win better, more support, especially with the C-suite, that they understand about final outcome, about money, not about the technical aspect of SEO. So it's important that we learn to communicate well with them. Everything is far easier if you have an internal SEO champion about the decision makers to communicating with ambiguity and technicalities won't help. Also that it depends. Yes, it's true that it depends, but there are much better ways to phrase this to communicate value. As Stephen Ken Wright mentioned here in this Twitter thread, that I thought it was brilliant, because it's always how we say stuff, right? And we should personalize also the way that we communicate, not only face to face with our clients or the stakeholders, but also our reports, how our reports are formatted, right? To show to the people like what they actually care about, right? So the one thing is the KPIs that we monitor to see if we're advancing well. That of course they might be very granular: crawlability, indexability, links, rankings, traffic, revenue. But then the KPIs that we share with the development team, probably crawlability and indexability. Maybe they don't care at all at that point, right? They are not so concerned with links. They shouldn't, because they are not the part involved in the building, right? And then the KPIs that you share with your PR team, the links on traffic, or the KPIs that you share with the marketing team, rankings, traffic, and revenue, right? It should be different, and how you communicate with them and what you share with them should be different, so they can see the impact of their own work, or what they are really concerned to achieve, and see how SEO is actually helping them to achieve their own business goals at the end of the day, right? So learn how to format your messages to your audience to be relevant, actionable, and get the required support in recommendation, in presentation, in follow-up calls, in report. Why should this matter to the other person? What's the issue and expected outcome? How can this person help to make it happen? What are the next steps to take? What are the alternatives, right? And there are even tools nowadays like Crystal, right? That we can run to better know someone's personality, and how we can communicate with this person to persuade them or to get our message across. And there are many books like Influence, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? To learn to better communicate, connect, and influence others too. So it's not talking sometimes about SEO issues and challenges, but SEO opportunities, right? Refining how we communicate SEO and the value of SEO to get more support and understanding. So as you can see, it's about position and prioritization and communication in some cases to be more effective in SEO, achieve better our goals in a much more straightforward way, in a much more cost-effective way, and minimize the challenges that I mentioned before. And indeed, I reckon this might not be so popular topics that we are necessarily concerned day to day, but as you can see, we all need to use them. We have all faced this type of challenges. And what I will say is that, yeah, SEO, as Kevin Indig mentioned, also it's an execution problem, not a knowledge problem. Indeed, many of us have already, we are already a little bit experienced, right? And the problem is to make things happen. It's not our self-understanding that there's an issue. We understand that there's an issue and we recommend how to fix the issues, but it's to get the support to make the proper execution, to facilitate that the issues are minimized or overcome too. And I actually wrote a little bit about this topic in the past, this blog post about some tips for successful SEO consulting that you can also check check out if you want to learn more about this topic. And thank you very much for the opportunity. I think that I have summarized and go through the main aspects as much as I could. I see there are a few chats. I don't know if you have actually questions regarding it, but please do. If there's a little bit of more time for a little bit of Q&A, I will be more than happy to answer any questions.
Woohoo, Aleida, what a great presentation. It was totally exciting, and you shared a really valuable knowledge, which is something we really expected, because you confirm you really confirm again that you're this kind of SEO celebrity we expected to see here. So let's go straight forward to the questions. The first question I would like to ask you here is that let's imagine that you're a marketing specialist who is not so much into SEO, but you know how important it is for any business. How do you think we should talk with our clients and explain to them that SEO is something that takes time and they can have the results in 2 days, or maybe a week or 2, or a month or 2? What are your recommendations, tips and tricks maybe for communicating the client and showing them that SEO is really important? They won't see these results so quickly, but at the same time they will feel convinced to continue with us on a long-term basis.
Yeah, especially if you're a digital marketer, maybe you do a little bit of SEO, or even recommend that the client does SEO, right? But you also do a little bit of paid search. You also do a little bit of paid social, etc. Right? There are very, very clear and obvious statistics out there that you can show. For example, you can show how Google is still today the main traffic driver. It's not Facebook. It's not any other property. It's Google. And then Google connected services to YouTube, Google Maps, Google Images. These are all Google owned at the end of the day, or Alphabet, or whatever you want to call it, but they are Google owned, and they are usually, if you go to SimilarWeb, if you go to SEMrush, if you go to any tool, you will see them to be always the top traffic drivers on the web. That is the first thing. Secondly, you can show the click-through rate also, going to paid results versus organic ones. There are some data that Rand Fishkin has shared recently regarding the no clicks, right? And indeed, the no clicks is growing, but it's still like that. Even people who end up being happy with Google's results and not having the necessity to go to another website to get what they are looking for, these are usually informational oriented type of results. If someone needs to buy something and Google own services are not delivering this type of services by themselves, right? Like local services that can be obtained sometimes by Google Maps, or their own verticals, right? If you are an e-commerce website, it's very straightforward. Yeah, they will need to go to your website to actually obtain the product. And you can show in any case how the click-through rate of organic results is much higher still today than paid results. So if you want to be able to get the massivity of massiveness of users searching for anything in Google, it's not going to be through paid search, but organic. And then at the end of the day, it's about showing how doing a little bit of a keyword research, right? How many times your topics, your products are being searched in your market, in Bulgaria, for example, or in Spain or in the UK. You see, and you show all of the search volume, and you apply the click-through rates if you are in anywhere in the top 3 positions. So you can say, oh, 20% of this search volume will be mine. And I can assure you that this level and massiveness of traffic is difficult to achieve through other means. And you can also show how much this traffic that you will end up getting if you were ranking top 3 for these terms will cost doing paid search with the CPC for this traffic that you have in your sector, right? I can assure you that showing, yeah, you need to wait for maybe a year to achieve this, but in a year you will be able, or so if you do actually the SEO recommendations, you will be able to achieve this type of traffic in a consistent way without paying for every click or every visit. And this traffic will cost this if you end up achieving this or trying to get this through paid search, because you will be paying this in CPC, right? So you can show the value of SEO in a very straightforward way like this, and the necessity to do SEO. So again, it's not necessarily sometimes doing SEO only, because again, you sometimes you can wait so much to see results, right? But you can start balancing your budget to not go everything into paid and allocate certain percentage over or to organic. And especially at the start, you will tend to implement to invest more in organic because more changes are needed. But then after a while, it will be less and less. And then another important aspect, I think, is at the end of the day, investing in SEO is investing on your own property and investing in many aspects that are important and from a customer experience perspective, improving speed, improving relevance, improving in general the website is secure. So a lot of the factors that play a role into SEO are also factors that play a role in the customer experience, the customer journey, improving conversions at the end of the day. So it's a win-win, and it's investing in your own platform instead of paying to a third-party platform as you do in paid search. Also, you don't want to be only throwing money or sending money to another platform, but also investing on your own web property. That is what you actually own. So yes, I think that with all of this criteria and data and reasons, they should be more than willing to give it a go.
Yeah, great explanation again, as usually. So the next question is, we have a question from a business owner. He's happy to see such a beautiful and successful lady like you in the SEO field. And the question is, yes, he said that he's a business owner, but do you recommend him to dive in and do the SEO on his own, or it's better to outsource that and hire SEO specialists? What is your opinion here?
Yeah, I will say if he or she don't have first-hand experience with SEO themselves, right, with previous processes, I will say that, and especially if you are in a sector that might be a little bit competitive, to go to a specialist. That is why we are here, right? Then, of course, this person, if they are really interested, they can get involved in the process and learn. And then maybe in the future, they don't need as much support. They don't need as much help, right? They don't need just a little bit of help. But at the beginning, I will say that, yes, it will be important to have the help of an SEO agency, an SEO consultant that actually drives through the process and make sure that the process happens in a good way.
Okay. Another interesting question. People, including me, have seen you sharing some screenshots from SEO tools. So please share with us your top SEO tools you use in your everyday SEO life.
Well, realistically, I use many tools because yes, I am a little bit of a tool sucker, I have to say. Every tool that I see over there, I feel that I need to try it out and test it out. So I end up even testing screenshots and tools that I don't necessarily use on a day-to-day basis because, yeah, I usually tend to use a couple for every activity to double check, to validate. But yes, I also understand that there are only so many tools that you can have to be able to be cost effective, because otherwise you will end up like spending so much on tools and time going to the tools data that you won't be able to do your actual work, right? So for example, I use a lot of SEMrush for keyword research, Ahrefs also for keyword research. For technical analysis, I am using more and more Ride and Bodify. For content optimization, also with Ride, they have a content optimization functionality too that is pretty good. For run tracking, I use SEO Monitor a lot too. And Google Search Console, I use a lot Google Search Console plus Google Data Studio for reporting. And what else? For link data, recently I have found, Moz have really good link data and Ahrefs, but I have found that the one of SEMrush also is pretty good. They have updated also their link database. So yes, I try to always have a couple of tools for every aspect, not only rely on one, but yes, I have like my main tool for every activity.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Another question. Besides technical, which we both know, technicals, which we all know that they are the basis of every good SEO. How do you go about obtaining more and better links for your customers? Do you do this kind of link building, or you actually develop a good content strategy and go from the content strategy and continue from actually go from there to acquire the links? What's your
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? I think that as I am more indeed focused and specialized in strategical, technical, content-related type of topics, the other specialists are much more focused and experienced than I am in link building itself, and they are brilliant about it. They have already frameworks and outreach type of protocols that they go through, that they know, and contacts that they know that are highly effective. However, I have in the past, of course, and also with a couple of clients that are more of a startups to collaborate and that actually need links. And this is the thing, right? When you do the analysis at the beginning, if you have a very strong, super important brand, and in my case, I end up working with a lot of big brands, links are not the aspect that they lack from, right? Like when you do the whole audit, you see, oh, they have even more links than their competitors. The links are coming from even more authoritative websites, but they still ranking lower. And the actual gap and the actual issue is technical and content related, not links. So it's not something that I should prioritize then. However, I have cases too of startups that are just starting in a very competitive sector. So for example, a couple of years ago, I had this fintech startup. Of course, they had competitors that sometimes they were in banks or financial institutions with a lot of authority and popularity. How do you overcome them, right? So in this case, what we did was to work with their only digital marketing and PR team that they already had at this point. Even they were a startup, they understood their importance to establish their authority in their market beyond SEO, even not only for SEO, but for other reasons, of course. And we work a lot on building that authority. So they started to do webinars with experts in the financial sector to do Q&As to their potential clients that were from the crowd lending space. They created this crowd lending or crowdfunding actions like, for example, resources, calculators, dictionaries, glossaries, guides. I think that the strength, what you need to think is you have a complicated topic, a complex topic. How do you establish yourself by making it easy, right? So in their case, they had a very complex topic. So they started to do all of these actions to facilitate the understanding of their topic. They started to do also local meetups, actual meetups, physical ones in the top cities, to also Q&As to clarify about the financial opportunities out there in the crowd lending space. So again, every little action that they did from a PR perspective went through an SEO validation to make sure that they were making the most out of it from an SEO perspective. And then also all the actions were established with resources that were allocated to build resources, to build tools, to guides, references that will establish themselves as authority. They will bring traffic. Every single one of these guides, of these resources, when they were published, they were promoted crazily in the target countries, so they would get good coverage from big media websites or specialized media websites. And at the end of the day, this is how we make things happen. We did also a lot of outreach for colleges and institutions who were focused on financial institutions. So for example, the resources that they built that were super useful for anybody, like the dictionaries or glossaries or guides that could be useful for any financial student, right? These were sent to this, and a few links were gotten in this way. So it's again aligning based on your own necessity. In that particular case, we didn't need a massiveness of links, but links that were going to really refer authority and high popularity from from important, well-established websites within their space, so they could start growing little by little like this. But yes, indeed, like it's about aligning and seeing like which is my sector, what is my real necessity of links. It is volume, it is quality, it is what is the role that links are playing right now in my SEO status to prioritize accordingly. And after you prioritize, if the priority is big, yeah, you need to put a lot of resources on it. And potentially the ideal here is to align and to make sure that your every marketing and PR initiative is aligned from an SEO standpoint. So the promotion is executed accordingly.
Okay, before going to the final part of the webinar, 2 more questions that are really interesting, even to me and to our audience. You know that people most of the time know you as an international SEO specialist. So we cannot skip that question, despite the fact this is not the main topic of our webinar, but would you share us some, let's say some, quickly some tips and tricks about the international SEO? What are your predictions for the next year? And what could we expect in the next year when it comes to the international SEO at all?
Yeah, well, for international SEO, it's funny because I think that a lot of people want to do it and end up doing it, but they are not really that aware at the beginning of the resources that are required to actually support it in a good way, right? So, and then a lot of the decisions that are made early in the process, how to structure their international websites, can end up hurting a lot. Like, for example, I have seen companies that even if they are biggish type of brands, going at the beginning with CCTLDs, just to migrate a couple of years after to subdirectories, because they understand that then at that point, they understand the complexity of managing so many, and let's forget about SEO for a moment, so many different properties, independent properties that can be even hosted across different countries in the world. And it's so much more complex to attract links and to be able to grow the link popularity to individual specific properties, instead of consolidating all of them in a single one that is a GTLD with subdirectories, and they having much more challenges to be able to rank because of this. So yes, I have to say, maybe one little tip: if you want to start with international SEO, do a really good research at the start to make sure that those markets what you want to focus on actually have enough search volume, potential search volume, to make it worthy for you to go after that country. That is the first thing. Secondly, take a look at the competition within that market. There's also some markets. Of course, if you do this keyword research, the US will be always the #1, then the UK, maybe then Germany. But you see that the competition in the US is huge, then in Germany is huge, then again in the UK is huge. But maybe there's a middle market, let's say Spain or let's say France, where you check and you see that the current ranked properties, they are not necessarily as well optimized, or the link popularity is not as high, it's not crazy high. And you, on the other hand, have the capacity to hire native people who help you to support you for that process. And you see the search volume is good enough already still. So you can go after those markets if that's the case. And my recommendation is that if you already have a GTLD, if you have a .com, a .net, a .info, .org, that you enable subdirectories to target those countries, and you geolocate each subdirectory through the Google Search Console. Yes or yes, a lot of people have somehow, because of questions that I have gotten, I have the Azure Flag annotations in place, but my rankings are not the correct one. And I realized that they hadn't actually geolocated their specific subdirectory to the relevant country through the geolocation feature through the Google Search Console. So please register every subdirectory through the Google Search Console and geolocate it to the relevant country. Also, if it is possible, it's much better to target countries than languages, because at the end of the day, every country speaks in their own terms with their own specific permutations, query permutations, specific term permutations that might mean different things. Preferences are also different. Seasonality might be different. So if you can do it well, targeting countries too. But yes, I would say that by following these previous tips, you can maximize the chances to be more cost effective, because cost effectiveness here is key I see too big, even big companies in there. Not only trying to target too many countries at the same time with independent properties with ccTLDs right at the beginning, just to realize, have enough resources to keep and to maintain the content optimized in all of these properties.
Thank you, Aleida. It's amazing explanation. Again, I have one related question about international SEO. What is your recommendation about, for example, if we try to open another country with specific language like Greece, Bulgarian, but our primary website is English website, what will be better strategy for this type of SEO? Because we don't understood very well Greece or Bulgarian language, and to cooperate with local agency or trying to find some translator for that, professional agency for translation.
Yeah, so the issue here is like they have a website in English right now, right?
Yep.
In a.com, and they want to start a new website for Bulgarians and then for Greece, right? So what I will do, if they have a .com, actually, I will have a slash Bulgarian version and a slash Greece version, and the Bulgarian one needs to be in Bulgarian language. So yes, I will definitely try to hire an SEO with Bulgarian understanding, or at least an SEO who's able to work with copywriters and content specialists or marketers who are from Bulgaria, so they have native understanding of the language, and the same with Greek ones, so they can support the SEO on doing the keyword research, on understanding how the content should be developed. So the good part is that they already have an English version, so that version can already be taken as an input, right? And that doesn't mean that it's only about translating, because sometimes you will find that when you do the keyword research, the audience research, maybe you find that the top product that you have in the US or you have in English-speaking markets are not necessarily the same that you will have in Bulgaria, or that Bulgarian people search them in a completely different ways, that Bulgarian people, they won't be searching per location as the US ones, but per characteristics. And maybe your website organization need to reflect that and cannot be organized in the exact same way than the one that you have in the US, right? So you can do that too. And it's important that you identify that, because if that's the case, then you will need to tweak more than just terms and translate, right? But actually, or the organization needs to reflect that and will need to be different. So yes, specific versions for these countries, what specific support for local native support in Bulgaria and Greece, ideally.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely great explanation. Okay, so we are in our final part, funny part in our webinars. I will share with our audience one picture with you, and I will share in the private chat our. Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, I share it.
It's easier right now.
Yeah. Okay, so here, Aleida, please describe the best alt tag for this image.
This image, let me see. Oh my God. Hopefully it's something that can be shown online. Well, this is at PopCon, not this year, but last one, that I went to this axe throwing event organized by, it was Arsene and Casey and Casey indeed. And yes, I tried to be good at it, but I suck. If there were people actually, because I have a video actually throwing the axe and throwing it like, because I was too scared to get myself hurt when throwing it somehow, I don't know. And there were people actually making fun of me over Facebook with this video, saying, look, Aleida, if the zombie apocalypse comes to happen, you're on your own. Sorry, you don't have the skills to fight with the zombies. It's like, unfortunate, but true.
Oh, Aleida, you're amazing. Really. Thank you for that again. So, Dido, you're.
Again, I would like to say thank you for being with us today, Aleida, and for sharing your amazing knowledge and tips, because they're all the time very valuable. You share really some good insights on Twitter, on Facebook. You are very active in the community, which is totally great. and we have learned a lot from you, which is
yeah, I have had a really good time. Thank you very much. You're a great host. I've been trying to take a photo of our webinar also to say, speaking about Twitter or Facebook,
okay.
but unfortunately, you know, I am the worst. I should have cleaned my screen first, because you can, since I have a lot of light here, you can end up seeing my all the filth in my screen. Not good, not good. But no, thank you very much. I have had an amazing time. And please, if you have any question, any doubt that I haven't been able to actually reply to in the presentation, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to follow up over Twitter. I am at Aleida there, and well, thank you very much for the opportunity again. I have had an amazing time.
Thank you, Aleida. You're amazing, and thank you for sharing your knowledge about SEO, and for everything for the SEO community in the world, because you're one of the most important person in the SEO community in the world.
I don't think I am, because there's so much value, of course, and this is what I love about SEO. Everybody's willing to share, right? It's true that I share, but I think that there are tons of people sharing too. But yes, of course, it means a lot that you tell me this. I really, really appreciate it. Especially this is the thing, right? I was talking about this the other day. These are one of the cons, and you know also, because you're also the entrepreneurs, right? And your own bosses. Sometimes you need that people tell you this type of stuff to make you feel a little bit better when you are the business owner. This doesn't happen often, unfortunately.
yeah, same. We'll see you in Zurich, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing. Then in 2 weeks, looking forward to see you there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much to our audience to be with us again. Next month we will have another amazing webinar with two engineers from Google. One of them will be John Mueller, and don't forget to subscribe to our webinar in YouTube. And don't forget to check our Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn page for another news around the SEO specialists around the world, like Aleida. Thank you, Aleida, again, and Dido.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.